Hello and welcome to FutureFi, where we talk about anything and everything on the blockchain. Today we have Begin on the show, and in this episode we talk about how the NFT meta is shifting, what to look for in a solid NFT project, and a bunch of degen goodness. So let's jump right into this conversation with Begin. What's up, Damien? Ready to go full degen today?
How's it going, Bunzy? Yeah, we're ready to hop into the chat with Begin today.
I think we got the perfect guest to go degen. What's up, Begin?
Hello. Good to be here.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Excited to have you on the show. Damien and Keith have told me a lot about you, and I've done a bit of research and love what you're doing in the space. And kind of would just want you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and some of the things that make you a degen.
Nice. So, yeah, I'm Begin or BeginBot. You'll see on the internet. On the bad platforms, I'm BeginBot. I add more bots as the platform becomes more popular. So, I guess primarily, I've always been, I was a musician. I'm an art nerd. I'm a collector of various things. Ended up programming for money. And when the whole NFT thing happened back in 2017, I heard about them as digital collectibles. And it was like, oh, that makes absolutely perfect sense to me. I already collect a bunch of stupid things. I've been collecting clothes and Rubik's Cubes and instruments and all these wacky records. Oh, too much money on records. So I saw the whole digital collectible thing and I was like, oh, that makes good sense. And then I didn't buy any and I watched things kind of happen. And then during, I guess I would say Top Shot, during the whole Top Shot craze, I actually I'm not a basketball fan, but I was working at a website that was primarily focused on basketball. So I was surrounded by Top Shot nerds. And I care about the NFT side, not the Top Shot side, but they got so hyped up again. I said, okay, there's got to be something for me instead of just basketball. And that led to finding the Bored Apes. When they minted, I watched them mint out. I sat here on the same computer I'm on right now and said, should I get one? And I watched it mint out. And then that whole week I couldn't sleep thinking about them. And then I ended up buying a bunch. And from there, the degen lifestyle just got worse and worse, So
yeah, you love
buying,
it,
trading, flipping, selling, learning how to code some in the space, and that just led it. Like the Bored Apes, when I first joined, it was such a small community. I mean, it was NFTs were still earlier back then. That I met a lot of people, great people early on that are still my friends today. That we end up getting into other circles and they become alpha groups, and so since I've just been participating for a while, I've now got a pretty good network of friends and people that are keeping me tapped in all the time, even though I can't keep up anymore.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect combo. I mean, coming from a collector's background, because that's kind of how when I talk to others that really just don't get it, I use the reference of baseball cards. To some, that's just cardboard, right? But to someone, the value's in the eye of the beholder. And
Totally.
Until we get to the utility phase, that's much more embedded in the NFT industry. Right now, we're still in that collectible. It's like you're in the nostalgia phase, the infancy of. So you were in on ground zero. You have some of these to, make your claim. First edition, I guess, if you will, of the era. But yeah, and then the programming that makes a lot of sense. So can you explain more of for the tech listeners of what stack you build on and maybe some things that you work in?
Yeah, sure. So before, when I first got into programming, I was just essentially doing the dream that everyone does back then, which is try and join small startups, grow them, maybe they'll be acquired. And so I was always interested in finding startups that are in my personal interest. I try to be ethical about it. So the first company I was at that went from something smaller to bigger was green energy financing. I was like, we're going to save the environment. Then ended up going to a company that was all around ticketing. We're going to fix the ticketing industry. Ended up being acquired by Ticketmaster, who was destroying the ticketing industry. So then went into live audio, which I was a Twitch streamer already. So I was like, oh, I'm already doing live audio video. I can help in this field. Ended up getting acquired by Spotify. But all those companies, whatever stack I'm working on, to be honest, it's just different every single time. So it was like, I'm programmed Ruby. Okay, next job, I'm doing Ruby on Rails, right? First job. Next job, can you do Python? And we're going to make our own custom frameworks. And okay, actually, you're going to do infrastructure. Oh, now I'm only doing Terraform and stuff. Okay, next job, hey, we need backends built and we're already writing some stuff in Go. So I'll just use Go now. So I always just kind of do whatever we need for the job. That's what I like about startups is they don't tell you what to do. They say we have problems. And then you're just like, I got something over here to fix it. So right now, when I do program, I'm building some interactive Discord bot type things, and I'm just using Go. That's what I like right now. But truthfully, I like every language, right language for the right job. There's a big joke on my stream when people ask me, like, what's your favorite language? I always say having a favorite language is like having a favorite tool. You ask someone like, oh, you're a carpenter. Cool. What's your favorite tool? You're like, that's just a weird question. You're like,
I gotta say the ratchet, but
the ratchet. Yeah. You're like, what does that mean? And yeah. So to me, it feels weird, but I just, so whatever comes up, I truthfully, it's funny now that I'm not paid, from a programming company, like some major company or at a startup or something like that. It increases my imposter syndrome because someone's just like, well, who pays you? And before I was like, well, Spotify pays me. I'm like, oh, there's, or what?
I'm
now
legit,
I'm just like,
yeah.
Now I'm like, I just make stuff for myself. And I'm like, I'm a degen more than a programmer.
No, that's awesome. Well, yeah, man, I think you mentioned the music and a topic I want to get to later in the conversation of like, where's NFTs going with music, right? Because a lot of people, it's a question, it hasn't blown up. It's like when token, when music NFT, but there's a lot of mechanics, and we can probably touch on that with the smart contracts and royalties that can really change and disrupt the music industry. But I really love the story of just you watching the market and then jumping in. What really shifted for you after you started holding on to some of these apes and seeing what's happening? What did that feel like, right? Because I saw that from the outside and was like, that must be the wildest ride inside. Mm-hmm. And would just love for you to explain that.
Yeah, totally. So even when it's so funny because I totally came at it from both a collector perspective, but I was interested in future utility of community. So it's actually funny because this keeps coming up. I keep finding out in the NFT space. I talk to people, we learn more about each other, and you always find out, oh, they're in this other subculture. They're deep in, a particular music scene, or they're deep into a car scene, or they're deep into this particular clothing over here. And there's so much subculture. And when I first saw the apes, that's what I saw they were kind of talking about was we want to build, they said the whole story was you already got aped into crypto and you're rich and you don't want to, you're not trying to go around and make deals anymore. What do you want to do? Hang out at a dive bar with your friends who have similar interests. So that super appealed to me. So when I first got the apes, right, I was in that period where it was below 0.5. I bought some apes I have now, it's 0.46, 0.38 is around what I paid. And it was not moving. It was not going fast, right? It wasn't going crazy at all. It sat at 0.5 for a month. And I hung on that Discord the whole time. I was working from home, actually. Spotify at the time. Sorry, Spotify, I don't work there anymore, so can't get in trouble. And just, chatting in the Discord, talking to people. And what we all were really excited about was the IP conversation. And right away, people were like, I have a skateboard right behind me of one of my apes on my skateboard. And that guy making those skateboards, he was doing that a month in, right? And he was just put apes on skateboards. Great. You own your ape. Let me get one, right? Immediately, people started doing cool derivatives and people were like, hey, I'm going to launch a coffee brand. And everyone was just talking ideas of how to use that IP. And now if you look today, I went to the Bored and Hungry Ape restaurant in Long Beach with a line around the block. And there's people driving by in Long Beach what is going on here? Why is there a 300-person line for a burger joint in Long Beach? And it's IP, right? So we were so excited about that. And I had lots of friends in that space who were, building and doing stuff. And so that just hyped me up. So that made perfect sense. And so then when things started taking off, people don't realize a lot of them were around various events that happened. So one of the first things that happened is they did that merch drop. And I've been buying stupid streetwear for too long. You know what I mean? Been buying Supreme since you had to go to the only store in New York, or they were in Japan too, and you had to go in person, and they were really mean to you, and you could buy a shirt and get out of there and then look cool in your little hometown in Virginia for me. But that streetwear culture here, right now in Supreme, it's you line up 2 days ahead of time, and it's that's not how it was back then, right? There was a thing of you don't even know what this store is. It's a teeny store. So now that with new streetwear, I think this balance of saying you have to have this token to get it, it was my head was just makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. There's drops I want all the time that I can't get where I go, I'm an OG fan. I've been buying your brand for 10 years. Why can't I get this first? I'm racing against bots and kids who were trying to resell it. Give it to me. And so they did that first merch drop, which sold out instantly because they ordered less. They ordered 500 pieces or something like that when they had 500 apes sold. And then all of a sudden there was 2,000 at the time, which is, so little now in hindsight, but they're there's only 500 pieces for 2,000 apes. So it sold out instantly, and that bumped the floor up. Then they had the first ape IRL meetup right here in Venice. And truthfully, that definitely changed my life. It was just over pretty close to me. And, I came over, met a bunch of apes, and everyone was just what do you do? someone's like, oh, I'm in real estate. I'm a poker player. I'm a programmer. I'm a designer. And everyone was no one was like, I just, hate my life. Or everyone was like doing this, doing that. And they were excited about the future in a bunch of different ways. So after that IRL 8 meetup, in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm never selling this club. I'm not leaving the club. I met people from that meetup I still talk to. I see them regularly. And they're some of them are like, they're doing amazing things now, right? They've built brands off their apes or in other spaces or have their own projects. So that IRL meetup just made me so bullish on everything. And then we started focusing on the Discord, trying to have my whole thing is, you can see with my IRL meetups, I want good conversation. I want people to debate and discuss stuff. So I started hanging out a lot in the voice chats in the ape Discord. And we would, we'd do that at night, drink some beers, joke with friends, argue, talk about stuff, help coach people through someone's like, I got this rare thing. Do I sell it? Do I not sell it? Okay, here's what I would do. Here's what I would do. Okay, I ran the numbers. You could do this. And, in those are some of my best friends in the space now, people who I've done that with. And that's who I go to for advice. And so I felt like I was so deep in the community when it was 5 ETH, right? It was well, I'm never leaving this. And so then you're just riding it up. And they keep giving you stuff, right? That you can then, if you want, you can sell for money. They give you a mutant. They give you a dog. You got some ape coin. All of those were money that you could sell to stay in the club. And then Ape Fest was just we bought an ape. I bought an ape in May. In October, I'm on an actual yacht. And it's just I don't understand. And I'm you're literally, smoking a joint on the top of a yacht with apes that you met online and had, laughed at with hours in Discord. And you're like, this is a dream. So they gave you that experience, right? And then the Warehouse Fest too. It was, it's Chris Rock, Aziz Ansari, Beck, The Strokes, Lil Baby, Questlove. And it's just a private party where most people are an ape or a mutant. And everything is dead. The drinks are themed on the drinks. One of the drinks actually is so funny. One of the first drinks on early ape, Fry's frame, was he was always drinking Fernet and Coke. And he would post photos of him on his boat in drinking Fernet and Coke. And it was his drink and an official ape drink. And that happened in the first month of apes, right? Fast forward, we're having the party. That's one of the drinks there. And we're there's that drink. And we got to try it. And it's the world's worst drink. Oh my God. I was this is so great. This is what he drinks. And all right, give me another.
Man, I love that, dude. I love hearing that because that truly set the tone. And, there's been so many copycats after Bored Ape. And, some, that's where we got the word rug from. And it's become such a prominent term. But ultimately, what that project has done has shone light on this technology, what community truly looks like. Because in Web 2, it was Facebook, Instagram, right? Technically, you could use those to network and make friends. But by nature, they just became a look at me type highlight reel platform, where Web3 now is you're meeting people that you would never talk to, gaining relationships, even talking through life, goals, issues, and really, using the internet to its full potential. And that's the coolest part. You also mentioned a lot of the people were working on cool projects. And that's another thing I personally find in the space is there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of forward thinkers, because this doesn't quite check out logic, or it does logically, but you understand what I'm saying? To someone that's a very, thinks inside the box, plays the safe, has the 401k, just that, it's not for them. But those aren't the people taking a risk on themselves and their projects. And that's why discussions in this space are so fun, and they go in so many different directions because you have so many active creative minds. And I found the same thing with our community and other Discord communities. And I've met a few apes as well, but I just love the story of the people that were in there early. And I can only imagine, because I've bought in a few coins right with that ride, but it's not a shared community. But it's that's what I was I wish I could have had something like that. Just because it's so fun. But when you purchase a token, you're oh yeah, but you're not exactly sharing that with others. You're just kind of so yeah, the NFT industry is so fascinating in that regard.
Well, it's actually one of the things I'm always people talk about the apes on the outside, they see what the price is at now. And it's why is it successful? Why is another project not successful? And I always see new people getting into new projects, and I try and explain to them, you are the success of the project. If it's a club, if it's a group of people, you need to be cool and good too. So that's why I always think if you're at a party, right, and you're like, okay, when's this party? And then you're a person the entire time saying, is the party still cool? Is the party still cool? How cool is it going to be cooler? Is the party going to be cool? Wait, is it not cool anymore? Is it not cool? That's the same as you going, is the price going down? Are we going to the moon? Is it going down? Or are we going to the moon? It's like, that's not even, you're not contributing anything. You're talking about the meta situation, and that doesn't make a party cool. That doesn't make, but if you're a person who comes in there and you're like, oh, I've got some good, interesting topics to talk about, or you're funny, or everyone fills their own niche of whatever they do. We do not need the niche of some person saying, is it going down? Is it going up? Is it, there's like places for that.
So another interesting, this is like a deeper question, right? Of like, so now this culture has emerged. There's a lot of people seeing the opportunity. Cash grabs are happening. We don't like that. We all can agree on that. That sucks. It's hot potato with some of these NFTs. I'm the cool guy. I'm not cool now, that whatever. But when does the NFT market level up and not become the cool rich kid club? And that's kind of, it's not directed. It's just like an open conversation of like, there's so much value in it, but right now it's very number driven, but there's so much more value there. And it's like, that's something that would be cool to brainstorm or discuss out loud of, what takes this NFT market to that next level, to mass adoption, to where people can join communities and not have to pay 100 ETH.
Yeah. I think about this a lot, but it's really tough because like if you don't have a lot of capital right now, you can't lose, right? And that's one of the weird problems.
True.
When you get into here, right? Someone says, oh, I bought this one project, like the community. You have to be right that first time, ideally. And that's what people don't realize is with people who have more money, they fail 50 times and they have a hidden folder on their wallet that looks disgusting.
This
right?
is true.
But so I think a lot about how do I help friends. And I always tell people, and I don't know if this is good advice or not, I say you have to spend more time outside the double Dutch rope waiting for the exact like opportune time to jump in. But it might take months. I've had friends where it's like, I got $500. And I'm like, what should I buy? And I'm like, it will take me forever to give you a $500 recommendation I believe in. You have to spend it will come up, but it might be 2-3 months where you're just looking and you're going to watch 1,000 people FOMO on these little things. But if you jump in once and you're out of money, then you're out. So
yeah. No, it's an interesting perspective. It just, I read it in an article the other day and it just made me think, right? Because you seem like you're in it for the right reasons. And that's the coolest part about some of these early adopters. And then the gains are just like this kind of, it's a side, but you're talking about the events, like you're really embedded in the community, which is, it's invaluable, right? To me, that's like experience. You going to that, you can't put a dollar value onto that.
Yes.
So I just think that's pretty interesting.
Well, I will say that that's one thing I run like some IRL, events in Venice. So every Thursday in Venice, we actually do 3 in a row. So it's a full day of NFTs. So the first is what we call a creator accelerator, but it's a bunch of people, typically from some Web2 community, they're artists of some sort, trying to figure out how do we break in. And then we have just a panel of degens and others like myself, some artists who are now successful in the space, who we just try and help them understand, like, here's how we think about buying and selling and how you can understand, like, there's these little things that an artist might not understand. Like, this is how you appeal to us, or that really turns us off because of this history of this other artist doing it. And it's just hard to know what the whole culture is. So we try and like bring people in and teach them the culture and teach them how to like, get in authentically and meet people. And like, we always tell them it takes time. It takes so much time. Like, when can I launch a collection? I'm like, do you already have a community? No. Then you can't launch one. I don't know what to tell you. And so, how long does it take to build a community? And we're like, a long time. We're like, a week. And we're like, oh, no. You got to get to work now. And it's going to be months and months and months. And so, so we try and help those people, but it's a hard thing because it is a ton of work if you're trying to sell art and get in and take advantage of it, which you can, you just have to learn the culture first. So we like do that event. And that's supposed to be for, helping people out. Then we have like a casual meetup, which is a lot of like new people NFTs. It's like half hardcore degens, half people like, I've heard about this. What's going on? I'm a musician. Another musician friend comes in, and it's like half hardcore degens be like, okay, let me put ideas in your head. And that's super fun because you get to watch all these, artists come in and go, wait a minute, you could do that, you could do that, you could do that, you could do that. But it's like, you have to talk, like you have to pair the hardcore degens with someone new who doesn't have the same resource, and then teach them like the culture. And then after that, we do another event, IRL Alpha, which is just degens debating, which can be often really helpful. I've gotten the feedback from artists who are like, you two were arguing about that, and I had no idea you all cared. But you guys were so bad. Like, some people might not know how passionate people are about if art is on chain or not on chain. And you all of a sudden have someone in the audience go, I will not buy it unless it's on chain. And you're like, wait, what does on chain even mean? And you're like, they learn more about how to market things. And
Yeah, regarding that, how do you feel about that, Begin? Whether something is like stored on IPFS, on chain, or even centralized, like what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, so from an art perspective, on chain, it's just exciting because it's a constraint to the medium. And
Mhm.
it's just like, it's not even when we talk about something being on chain and it's like, okay, the art's gone. There's a post apocalyptic world where it's all been removed, but we have a couple people putting up some ETH nodes and we can still recover it. And we've got like, I love that story. I don't think it's going to happen. IPFS, it's going to be pretty hard to remove it from the internet still. Right. So if we're talking like the permanence of it, they're kind of the same right now. Decentralized, that's tougher, right? That one you really could lose something. So something's decentralized. I need a really hardcore reason why it's decentralized, right? If it's IPFS in general, I'm pretty happy. If it's on chain, I'm excited and I want to know why is it on chain. And I'm not an on chain like it's got to be on chain, but if anything's extra on chain, it makes me more excited. Actually, there's a project. I think it's called Spectra, but it was the first ever. The guy made a little mini physics engine on chain, which is so limited. It's like the most old school video game you've ever seen. It's just a sphere and you could show light and if you look at it, you're like, why is this cool? And I'm like, it's on chain. Look at that. Look what he did. He's got a little bit of, he's got 3D rendering on chain. And it's funny because you show someone and they're like, why is it exciting? But the restrictions, they really excite me personally, but that's like purely artistic and storytelling. No one would just look at it and be like, oh, I'm super inspired. I like how it looks aesthetically, but it's the story of, do you understand how hard this is to do?
Yeah. It's the collector in you seeing the like that artist that maybe lost his arm and is still painting with one hand, his opposite hand. That painting has so much more meaning to the collector. And for people that understand technology, being on chain, it's just a much more difficult task to deploy there and to get that done properly. So totally speaks to the collector. And if it's on chain, yes, there's a lot more security and stuff, but I'm with you. It's just more of like ooh, this is pretty cool. And it's got all the bells and whistles. And yeah, I hear you there for sure.
It's actually
I
funny.
think it's, those who want to appreciate like some form of pedigree, basically, is really what it comes down to, like on-chain art. But it's definitely optional, especially given how robust IPFS actually is in practice. So, okay, cool. Glad to hear that.
Actually, well, a funny thing, I always think about it from the collector side. I always think of on-chain in my mind. It's similar to like watch nerds who want a tourbillon. If you guys know what that is, it's a very, very complicated mechanical movement you build where essentially the whole movement rotates because they thought, oh, if it's sitting in one place, gravity must be pulling it down, which means time might not be as accurate. So if it slowly rotates, time should be more accurate. It's not more accurate, but it does cost an extra $100,000. And all the top watchmakers, if you have a tourbillon, and it's like, so it's more accurate. And you're like, no. You're like, so why? It's like, it's so hard to do. And you're like, and you see it in action, you're like, that's inspiring. And you're like, for no reason. It's not helping you in any ways, but you're just like, it's amazing that they went down this route to explain. I mean, and probably technology was formed from that, maybe useful things, but yeah, total collector.
Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. I see the parallel for sure. So another question to kind of switch gears a little bit and maybe think about things a little more macro. I think you said it perfectly, wherein a community, if you don't already have a community of people who have already bought in to the community, who then are ready to commit via like an actual art piece, then you're probably not in a good place to launch a collection. With how the NFT market performs today and the sort of like energy and the spirit of people in it, would you say it is sustainable at all or completely unsustainable? People need to reframe the way they look at NFTs for new collections to pop up and for everything to really have the longevity that we've all kind of imagined it to be, 10, 20 years from now. How far away do you think we are from being on that path?
Yeah, I'll say like, being an active participant in the NFT space, we always joke that the meta changes every 2 weeks. And like meta meaning something like, here's the way we do drops. Like when Apes came out, the big thing they were doing, they did a meta shift by saying, we're not doing a bonding curve. people today don't even know about the whole bonding curve era of this thing. And they were like, we've shifted the meta. And then bonding curves were over. And then there was a whitelist meta of you have to have a number of points in a Discord. And then that's gone. And then all of a sudden there's a new. So it's in my mind right now, we are in this like storm and it's moving and changing and it's going to look nothing like this. I don't know how long this will form into something more sustainable. I think it might be 2-3 years of absolute chaos in every little industry, right? Because music really hasn't started yet. Art, photography, you're starting the balls rolling. It seems like people are making inroads, maybe in animation and maybe movies will happen. But so I feel it's completely unsustainable right now. But the point of it being unsustainable is it's changing every day and there's opportunity for things that will be sustainable. I think if you're copying anyone right now, you're being silly. Like if you're looking at like apes going, we'll just do exactly what apes did. It's like by the time you're there, it'll be changed and you'll be a failure. And everyone we're seeing it's doing something. I think we do reward new and interesting in the space in general. Sometimes you'll see something becomes popular and all the derivatives pop up a little bit, but those always die down. And then the big winners come out and do something new. So yeah, not sustainable.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I agree. It's not sustainable as it is, but it is basically doing what every emerging industry needs to do, which is experimenting a lot to see what ultimately works. Yeah, okay, cool.
It's like pets.com. The whole thing of at one point, the internet first came out and was like, everything will be sold online and we will all go to separate websites where we will buy I'll go to buy my pet food on pets.com and then I'll buy my computer mice on computermice.com and my coffee on coffee.com. And then you're like, actually, that's not how it's going to work. We found out we like to go to Amazon and buy all of it. And then if you like artisanal stuff, there's these artisanal stuff. And that's where we're at right now. There's a ton of pets.coms coming out right now. They're all going to be gone. And we will see some big people. That's why, truthfully, I think that, I was theorizing it last night. I was wearing my tinfoil hat of IRL Alpha. And I think apes could be going towards, trying to build a platform for other NFTs. And that's why, utilizing whatever they're going to do in the metaverse and using their coin, already the coin being on OpenSea you can use, showing a preview that has cool cats and cryptodes and nouns in there. That's how the biggest businesses are, right? Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they're platforms for other people. And I think we're going to see a ton more of pretty much that. Things consolidating into big platforms around different styles of NFTs, right? Whether it be a social club or we're investing in some type of physical entity that is split up to people in tokens or whether, I don't know, there's many things, music or something like that. And then it's all about just what are the big brands? What are the big artists that it can exist in each one of those?
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then to kind of go back to kind of apes and punks, right? Punks are from way back when. They're kind of the OGs. Yet you see that apes have kind of overtaken them, at least in terms of price. What do you think that reflects? Or how does this reflect the opinion of the people? Like, how do the people perceive apes versus punks, in your opinion? I don't know if you have any punks too, but
I do not, sadly.
Gotcha, okay.
Actually, when I was I have so many sad punk stories of. I looked at one for $1,800, and I think I sat on my computer and I sat there and I just looked at it and I just drank beers and I just looked at it and I was like, and then I didn't get it and then I watched it go to 18,000 and I was like 18,000, no, I can't get that. Then I got deeper in NFTs and I sold some of my some early ape sales and I was back looking at one and I was like, this is mine. It was like 35 ETH or something like that at the time, and then it ended another ape bought it and I was so depressed. I was like, I'm not getting one. I can't get the one I want. So I don't have one, sadly. I'm hoping I get lower and I'll buy one. But the whole punk ape perspective is really tough because it changes based off of when everyone came into the space. So when I first came in, punks is the only thing that even matters, right? Apes weren't even out. And there were some other communities, but punks was really the premier community. And I read I didn't say a single word. I read every single message in the punks Discord every single day and was just like, that was the pulse of NFTs, right? And so many of those people now are big names, but they're not part of the punks anymore. Many of them sold during a big height and have launched other stuff and et cetera. So it's hard. So I have this opinion of like, I just remember that Discord I felt like I was sitting in the room of, all the geniuses way smarter than me. And I got to lurk on the walls and just hear, which you hear people say, I'm joining the apes. Let me hear what these millionaires say. And then everyone in this are just shit posting and posting GIFs. They're like, I'm not learning stuff, that's what I like about apes. But like the punks, they were talking art blogs. Let's debate art blogs here. Let's talk about this. And they got me into a bunch of different stuff. So I have this like nostalgic, like they raised me, I feel like, right? And so punks are always, they were so aspirational for me the whole time. I don't think that's the view today because, there's not as many public punks that have big names on Twitter And then a lot of them, when they have their, they have a bigger name, they are opposed to most of the community, right? They are, it's fudding apes or fudding other communities or talking. It's kind of they sit in an ivory tower. And so new people don't really see like, who are these amazing punks? Like at one point, it's hard to remember. If we go back and look at Twitter, so many profiles you see today that are big names were punks, right? Everyone, and people would upgrade to punks. I remember back then it was a thing. It was like someone be a good ape, they killed it. Now they're a punk. Hey everyone, I did it. You go and kill it in Wicked Craniums, and all of a sudden, hey everyone, new punk in town. And it was like graduating. That's not something that happens anymore. So I think that's hard for new people. I don't think punks will be aspirational. Apes or other things feel like they're aspirational right now. However, I mean, like when you dive into the history of things, and I mean, I could be totally wrong, right? It's just like they are so important. And in my opinion, one of the best examples of actual minimal pixel art. So they're not the first 10K collection, technically. They're not the first pixel art collection. But when you actually look at the collection from personal opinion, from an artistic standpoint, the variety of traits, how much character you see in them, it's like so many collections you see and like everything looks the same, or everything looks too different, or everything is not distinct enough, or everything. It's like, how many punk personalities are there that have different punk traits that we all know? Like they really did, in my opinion, an amazing, like their branding is amazing. It's like the art is great. And so I think people eventually over a much, much longer time scale will come around, but it will be people who are collectors trying to buy something to put in the collection to hold long term. Whereas people buy an ape now and they're thinking like, I bought an ape now, I'm going to be rich next year, right? I think that the punk buyer now is going to be someone who's like, I'm buying a punk, I have a punk. Yes. And the punk in the collection, I have a punk, I have a squiggle, I have an ape. Those don't go anywhere, right? So, but I'm just stealing some shit.
Agreed. So with regard, and then this is just a question about market dynamics. So right now, let's say somebody, if they're willing to pay whatever the ETH floor on an ape, do you think over time, and this obviously is based on the presumption that you also believe ETH will go up over time because it's deflationary, do you think that the unitary price of an ape will remain the same measured in ETH? Or do you think it'll ultimately kind of be more so denominated in dollars and the ETH price will kind of go down over time? What do you think we're going to see?
Yeah. So it's tough. I don't really know. I've watched different patterns emerge, right? There's always this thing of like, oh, ETH dumping, NFTs go up. And there was a moment where that was working. And it actually was like, I was like, I'm the master. I did it. All my ETH friends are panicking. I got monkeys going up. And it was like, yes, that isn't always happening now. That does seem to have divorced some from it. That I don't know exactly why that has changed, right? It seems like sometimes like ETH goes down, JPEGs go down, people are panicked to try to sell some ETH to, secure some profits. So it seems like that might be a pattern that's emerging. I truthfully think though, like something like bigger projects like your apes or doodles like that, they're denominated entirely by hype cycles. It's where are we at in the hype cycle? What's next, right? Like Otherside, we were waiting for that. We were theorizing the dates. Like, you could see the build up right before the moment, all-time ape high. And we have the other side drop. And now what's the next announcement? Let's wait and see. But that'll be, I think that if ETH could be crashing and then Yuga could announce something and it's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what ETH, or ETH could be, booming, whatever is happening. It's like the hype cycle. It feels like it just like people do not care about the ETH price if there is hype going on at the time.
So you just kind of touched on the next topic I wanted to dive into is the land sale. Kind of the Dutch auction, all the gas that went to literally the ether, not so much, but just it's gone. And they did the refunding and all of this. But what was just your take as someone that represents that community? Because everyone that's in there, like you said, the community is only as good as the people in it that pushing it forward. And from the outside, it seemed like, a little bit. What was your take on that?
Yeah, it was tough because like we all knew there was going to be a gas war with how it was set up.
Oh yeah,
it was obvious. So we knew it was going to be a gas war, and I had for a week before friends really saying, "Let's talk strategy. What are the exact numbers you're putting?" Right, and then we were also playing poker with a lot of people saying, "What are you using?" Yeah, 1,000 Gwei. Yeah, I think 1,000 Gwei. And it's like, you just DM me and said he's doing 2,000. He said he's doing 2,000. I'm doing 3,000. That's straight up happening, right? Where no one wants to reveal their hand, but also so everyone is stressed for weeks. The day before on Saturday, Friday, and then Saturday morning of, I was just getting DMs from people just being like, I'm so stressed. I'm dying. Just like, that's not good. That is not how you want to spend a drop. Drop should be exciting, fun. What's going to happen? Oh, here it goes. Not a, oh God, so I don't like that. That's how everyone felt. Then there's the other problem, which is it's tough because there is an information, there's an information asymmetry about how to handle these gas wars. So, if public service announcement, everyone use flashbots. So I was doing a Discord call for a bunch of people to mint these so we could give support to everyone. And I can't even tell you how many people we onboarded into flashbots so they would not have to worry about buying your gas. Quick explanation, right? Flashbots, people run a modified node. It actually hides the transactions before it's completed, so it doesn't end up in the mempool. So someone can't hop ahead of you, sandwich attack you. But also, the better thing here is that if a transaction fails, you actually only pay the miner if it's successful. So if you put in a 2 ETH transaction and it fails, you don't pay the 2 ETH. Which, as you were hearing, lots of people were panicking all over the place. So I was able to put in multiple transactions and not be sweating about losing stuff and trying to find that number. And then I knew other people who were like, I just lost 2 ETH. I did not get land. I want to kill myself. And it's like, that's terrible. So I felt bad for everyone. I was trying to spread the good word of I couldn't even tell you how many times. I can do it in 1 minute, 30 seconds. Show someone on my computer. Here's how you get set up flashbots. Here you go. We got it. Because we were having people come be like, I'm dying. What do I do? Here you go. Sit here. Go. And, so it was it was exciting and actually fun. It was chaos and we were barking out orders. We were helping people. Everyone in my crew all minted successfully. No one lost gas. I didn't get a quota. Some friends got quotas. I'm happy for them. But then the next day we were just like, that was not a good day. It was not wasn't a fun feeling. The Moonbirds drop was the week before or the 2 weeks before. That was fun, right? That was great. The stress of getting the raffle was just here's the day. Did you win? Did you not win? Cool. I didn't have to do anything. It wasn't a panic of numbering and setting up networks. Then the raffle day or the actual drop day was just a celebration. It was just, what'd you get? Oh, I got this. And we had fun. It was a fun celebration day. At the end of the other side, I was like, I'm going to bed. I'm tired. I don't even want to talk. I'm in a good mood. I went to going to bed at Moonbirds, but I can't see my birds in the morning. I'm like, I got some land. Great. Doesn't have any quotas. I'm tired. So yeah, I was pretty bummed. But
I love that. I love that take. It talks technically to the drop, but also to the emotional side of what that's supposed to feel like, right? And people always see this as how much am I making? What am I, not enjoying the experience, because it's the same thing. And when you're a kid opening up a booster pack of Pokemon cards and you pull that, and these are the projects and these are the ideas I want the NFT community to shift more towards. And that's why it's not the cool rich kid club. There's some chance and there's some of these things embedded in it. And I'm super glad. And it sounds like that's how you view it as well. So yeah, it's super cool hearing that from you.
I always tell, I won't stop raving about it, but the Proof Grails drop, in my opinion, it was the most fun, one of the funnest days I've had in NFTs in my entire NFT career, right? So that's where they had there was hidden artists, right? 20 artists, you get to pick one for a proof pass if you had. And then they unveiled it and there was meetups, one in New York. I went to one in LA. They were up in Portland and everyone's in a room. We're watching live and everyone in the room, we all know which one we all bought, right? I got number 1, you got number 12. Everyone is just at this thing debating. People have been debating for weeks. And then each time there's a reveal and the room was electric, right? It was just amazing. And then each reveal, it's I will remember to the day I die, them being Protoglyph, Larva Labs. And we're like, what are you? The room. And then there's 2 people in the room who that's me. Oh my God. And it's it was so much fun. And it wasn't just fun about making money. We sat there and debated art. We talked. I was so excited to be out with people who knew way more about art and photography than so much. It was it wasn't about money. We sat there and be no. I don't think that photographer's style would match that. He wouldn't adjust. It's no. He could be more diverse than that. You're beautiful. The debate wasn't, will it go up? Will it go down? We talked about art. And then, some people made some money. Some people got art they want. But that was on a Saturday as well. And it was I will remember it till, forever. And then this one, I was like, all right, I didn't want to talk about NFTs the next day. I was like, I just want a day off. I'm going to go hang out at the beach. Like, I just don't mention JPEGs for a whole day.
So I have to ask you this. You've been in the game. You know what makes you happy. You know what's kind of stressful. And this is going to be a tough question, but I'm sure you probably thought about it at some point. But if you were going to mint a project this week, and it doesn't have to be realistic, right? But like, what are some things that you would be like, this is what I want, and this will allow the listeners to kind of know what to look out for, for some of these future drops, right?
Totally, yeah. So first of all, there's always like the due diligence you're going to do to make sure like the team is real people, or there's someone that has some experience here, making sure the website isn't scammy, making sure if they have a contract out, read the contract, make sure it's verified. There's like the basic due diligence, but it's also like what excites me. And for me, I'm always looking for anyone who has some sort of vision for how to move this subculture. Meaning that a simple one that really excited me, and I'm sorry to be, I'm a proof maxi. I apologize. But like one thing they said they're saying they're high rise. They're saying, hey, metaverse, this giant open world, we're not doing that. We're gonna make small little exclusive metaverse. And I'm like, there you go. That makes sense to me. Another person saying another huge, I'm like, I don't care. Right? The apes will take care of that with their $4 billion, right? I trust them, or I trust, someone else. We don't need 1,000 more big things. But they gave you a take on something. So it's like, ooh, that sounds great. So anytime I want to hear, so I read a roadmap and it's like, we'll do a merch drop. And I'm like, yeah, I'm cool. That's what everyone does, right? Well, it's sandbox land. I'm like, cool, like the other 12,000 projects here, right? So just what is anything different? Give me something new. I like to invest in things, or I want to participate in the future. And I don't care if it doesn't work long term, or if it's not this hit. I want to be part of the experiments, if that makes sense. Because that's what all of the successful projects have been. They're experiments in different stuff often. Like big, huge hits are experiments. And then sometimes other things just follow those because they're successful, and then you're doing good. But for me, I want to be on the cutting edge. And like, that's the same thing I'm into, like a bunch. I'm like Wolf Game. I'm a huge Wolf Game maxi, I guess, too. Every week you're like, what is happening over here? It's crazy. And people who have to explain Wolfgang to people, they're just like, what is going on? And then I see them next week. They're like, what's happening this week in Wolfgang? And I'm like, oh boy, so here we go. And, I'm laughing. My friends the other day were like, does this game have any strategy? And I was just like, here's the spreadsheets we're using. Here's the app my friend's making. Here's the apps that everyone else has made in the community. You're like, for what? And you're like, to win. And you're like, oh, there's, but they're changing stuff every week. And I want to be part of just anyone who's got what I'm saying, like vision. I look at like Wolfgang or Apes or Proof, people who can think of a new idea and just go for it. So, and it's not even about just like one new idea. I want teams that can generate multiple new ideas, because I don't think I don't want to be a project where everything works, every move's great. Who cares? Like, that's stupid. Like, we're in wacky Web3 land, right? I want experiments that burn, and then you go, okay, not that. How about this?
I love it. Yeah, it just expedites. It seems like crypto, right? The joke is like a day's a year, but it truly is, because the experimental, you're able to just really throw stuff into the fire and see what works. And I know Damien knows a bit more about Wolf Game and DeFi and stuff like that. So I'd love for you guys to explore that side of NFTs. And yeah, Damien, what do you think about DeFi, NFTs, how they're coming together, how that's going to play out?
So the way that I see NFTs ultimately making their way into DeFi is really the most obvious way. And that's just going to be the basic collateralization of NFTs so that you can borrow against them. Obviously, this is going to be done with a lot of the big NFTs with a really stable floor price. You're not going to want to be gambling on something that's volatile. And so there are actually a few different projects out already where you can do this. And so I think the one that I'm most keen on is going to be JPEG'd, which is, I'm not sure if you've heard of them, Begin, but they're kind of funny. They have a supply of like 69,420,000,000 or whatever, but I think that their first NFT is going to be BAYC, so it's going to be apes. And they're setting up like price feeds with Chainlink to see what the floor price is, and you can borrow up to you can start off, I believe it's with 10% against the floor price. And then if you buy some of the token and then you stake the token, you can increase your credit line up to about 30%, right? So that's the buy pressure for the token, so that you can have extra credit, so you can go ahead and do whatever it is that you want to do, right? Whether that's one leverage, right, in that same collection. So let's say you have 5 apes and you're able to go ahead and buy one more ape. If you collateralize all of them, then you can go do that, right? That's leverage in an NFT now. That's, same thing you could do with Aave. Alternatively, maybe you want to go buy some tokens, right? So you can go ahead and collateralize your NFTs, borrow some, whatever against it, the PUSD, convert that to USD, go ape into some new DeFi projects, right? If you want exposure there. So there's a lot of different strategies, obviously, that you can do with this. Or maybe you just want to go longer on ETH, right? You want to go ahead and turn it all into ETH and throw it into Alchemics and then borrow against that and then use a loan that's going to pay itself off to go gamble, right? Then you basically you de-risk yourself. But that's where I see NFTs really coming into place. And obviously they're going to start with PFPs, but let's just fast forward 5 years from now. I mean, art already is an extremely expensive thing in the world, right? It's very valuable. And so being able to financialize that through an instrument as an NFT and then just utilize that the same way you would any other asset that you have in your portfolio, it just makes sense. So I think that's one of the first ways that DeFi and NFTs will come into play. I think there's some more other interesting things, but I'd love to hear if, Began, you've come across anything before I get too far down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's funny what you're talking about. It's so interesting. And like, I love the idea of the token going up to increase your credit line and stuff like that. Like fun little concept to play with. So in my opinion, from my side, I just came to the NFT side and I have DeFi friends who are hardcore DeFi friends and I ask them what's going on and I understand half of what they're saying. And I literally I get together multiple DeFi friends and then one that is a programmer too. And then I just go explain what he just said in programming terms. And I make them all so I can understand what they're saying. But in my opinion, what I'm seeing a lot, which really excites me, is like onboarding people into different NFT concepts or DeFi concepts through NFTs and tricking them in the game way, right? So that's the whole Wolf Game thing. A lot of people, they're just all of a sudden, like I explain how it's working and like, oh my God, I just love shearing my wool bags every day. And my DeFi friend's like, you're doing what? I have 3 times a day, I'll shear my wool bags. Like, what do you guys are doing DeFi and you guys don't know? I go, no, it's called Wolf Game. It's totally new. You've never heard about it. But then because you're participating in a concept that's similar, you go, wait, so how does the DeFi thing work? It's so silly, but it's like straight up, you put sheep JPEGs attached to DeFi and all of a sudden I'm like, this is a little more exciting than reading these docs I'm reading right now and this white paper of what to do stuff on. So it's like, I think it's such a good way to onboard people to concepts and see like the magic of it. And then they can abstract the picture side or like a cartoon character away from it and just do, but it's like, it can be intimidating to someone like right from the beginning. But I like the idea of like, simple example is making this up right here. Is you could say, so Cool Cats has got Cooltopia, they've got milk. They could make something where you say, okay, we're going to build a concept where you can borrow against your future milk, right? And you introduce some DeFi concepts. And someone might say, oh, cool, awesome. I'm going to try this in this Cooltopia world and it will work out or it won't work out. But then they'll say, oh, I borrowed against milk. Oh, can I borrow against ETH? Oh, can I borrow against? But you learn it from a game and then you'll go other places and actually just use it in the more just strictly financial sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, implemented in a way that's easily that's tailored, like for the theme or whatever the context of that NFT project, and then users will naturally sort of abstract that and then begin to use it elsewhere. I think you're right. I think, and this is something I've been thinking too for a while, that's the way because if you look at it today, right? Like I think DeFi is super exciting and I live and breathe it, but other people, most people don't really care about finance. Finance is kind of like, oh, it's a thing I just have to do because it's part of life. But nobody like wakes up and is like, oh my God, I can't wait to like check on my farms. Like no one really does that outside of like the degens in the space already. And so I think that, in order to really, I think it's ultimately something good for people. People need to understand finances because it'll solve a lot of their problems and doing so in a fun way. I think is the way to not only make NFTs better and improve that ecosystem, but just overall society. So, I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's really similar to the way this finance thinks. When I guess it's weird I say I teach programming, but I would stream, programming on Twitch, and people are learning from it. We're talking concepts, we're doing stuff. But my whole thing, I'm always telling people I'm trying to do privately is I'm tricking people into learning to programming without it being like this. Oh, I got to learn to program. I try and set things up where it's like, you could troll me if you just write this code. And then like, oh, I want to troll him. And they go, oh, if I could just figure out how to do that, I could troll him better. Oh, I could. And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm getting good at code. I'm just messing with this guy on Twitch. And you're like, I'm getting smarter. And they're like, I can apply this for a real skill and make real money. And I kind of think of a similar thing as like DeFi NFT mix. It's like we trick people into actually learning these things in a super fun world. And then they say, darn it, I acquired skills and this stuff makes perfect sense.
It's gamifying it and just making it
Mhm.
simple, because that's honestly taught me, crypto in general has taught me more about finance than I could ever imagine, simply because, our education system doesn't do a good job teaching about finance, first of all. And then second of all, when you're young, you don't have much money, you don't care, you have that rebellious phase, like, oh, fuck taxes, stuff like that. And but then it comes out, and then they use a lot of jargon, and banks, the way they set up, they're essentially trying to trick you a bit. And so when you break it down, you're like, ooh, this token, it kind of feels like a game. Like I used to play MMOs, and you have gold, and it's like, how do I make more gold? I go collect herbs or something. And then it doesn't really click, but with crypto, it starts to click, and you're like, oh, I just pulled this out to fiat. Like that actually worked. So yeah, gamifying, I think, and that's so cool. And I have to applaud you for doing that in your Twitch, because that is really awesome. Onboarding people into code, people just, like you say, programming, and people shut down. They're just like, I don't know. But if you just simplify it, just telling the script to do one thing or the other. And so that's really cool, man. I keep doing that because that's awesome.
Well, think about it. It's so tough. I mean, I hang with programmer friends all the time, and we're literally just speaking another language to outside people. And I've had it where, like, guys speak English, like, what are you saying? This is insane. You're talking in acronyms. And it's like, you have to change the way you talk. And I had that with my DeFi friends. I'll get them, and I'm like, guys, just say some normal words. Just explain what you're talking about, And we don't realize that, because someone looks and they go to the DeFi, why don't you get this DeFi podcast? What are they talking about? I'll never get it. You go to a programming podcast. What is going on? And you have to wear those on-ramps and spaces that aren't, because my whole thing is I don't like, welcome, you're a beginner to DeFi. Let's teach you step one. That's not how I learn things,
Yeah.
Like, same with programming. I just want, you learn everything. Like, you hang out, you join the culture, you pick things on the fly, you go to a job, you learn how to do it, you research on your own, and people teach you tidbits here and there. I just don't like super formal structure. Turns me off.
You gotta break it to build it.
I agree.
You gotta, the same way with programming. I learned, I was watching all these tutorial hell, and I was just in this thing, but then I just started breaking some stuff and having to fix it. And then you're like, okay, now I'm understanding. But you just watch it and you're trying to remember the syntax or remember all these terms, the definition. Put that to the side and just, ask yourself, what's really happening? What am I trying to even do here? And it starts to work. But yeah, no, that's the approach.
I think it's a good, important thing, like with programming, DeFi, NFTs, all this stuff, where you have to realize when you come into the space, it's huge. It's a ton of words, ton of stuff to figure out, so many concepts. I only understand one little sliver of NFTs, barely understand anything in DeFi. And that's everyone, no matter how deep you're into it. So you have to be okay not understanding some stuff and knowing when to not go down that rabbit hole. Right? Yeah. Be like, okay, I'm going to put I don't understand that, then put black box on that, and then we're going to keep going down this way, because you'll just be overwhelmed. Just go, I don't understand that, I don't understand that. And you're in the first step going, I don't understand every word around me, so I can't progress in any direction. And you just have to, you got to dive in and be like, don't understand, I'm figuring it out, we're going deeper. I type that word, who knows what it means? And eventually, after a week, you're like, I get it.
Yeah, I think, you basically have to pick your specialty. Right. And then be comfortable with knowing that there are some things that are going to go on in this other sector, and you're not going to know about it. You're not going to understand it. And you're going to have to be comfortable with the fact that you've made that choice beforehand, rather than constantly trying to FOMO into things and spreading yourself too thin, and it being basically having exposure to a lot of things, but no real performance in any of it. I think that's exactly right. And that's why, for me personally, it's I love DeFi. That's what I'm really good at. When it comes to NFTs, it's it requires too much day-to-day attention, and it's just way too dynamic. Like, something that's true in DeFi is going to stay true for at least a few months, right? It's pretty, it moves a lot slower, because it's about money, and people have to put millions, and then there has, liquidity needs to either be wasted or used or increased, right? So it doesn't happen overnight as much. Whereas NFT season, something can be popular for only a week or two, right? Miladies can go way up and it'll go way down,
a week or two, so a long-term project. Oh, nice. It's funny. what is it called? Like I was thinking about in programming. There's like front end, back end. I started in front end and then moved into back end. The reason why is I was like, I can't keep up in front end. It changes every week. I'm sick of it. New framework, new this, new that. I'm sick of it. The language is changing. And then it's like you learn HTTP, you learn, and you're like, that's been the same for a while. You learn REST, you're same on REST. You learn anything. You learn, how to you're good at the Linux command line. I'm like, I'm reading docs and going to the website, and it's like last update 98, and it's perfectly correct. And I'm doing all the work I need to do, and I'm like, oh, I love that we haven't changed. Like binary's not changing.
Right, exactly.
But I totally feel the same for like NFTs right now. I'm happy to be in the harsh landscape, and I could see myself wanting to get out of it one day. But I totally feel for people who don't want to, because I'm leaving other harsh landscapes because of exactly that.
Gotcha. So kind of to switch things up a little bit, how do you see NFTs and gaming interfacing right now? Because I think, just to kind of lay some context down for anybody who may be new to Web3, last year, GameFi, right, was like a big old thing. There was a lot of hype. I mean, people were selling things, NFTs, and hype on games that hadn't even been developed. It was all basically vaporware, and so the reason, and the concept of vaporware is, if you haven't heard of it before, back in like 2015, 2013, when tech was still pretty new and applications were launching all the time, people were able to, startups, it was very common for them to come together, slap together a demo, and sell it to VCs for a whole lot of money. And we saw like multi-million-dollar deals for projects that really hadn't even built anything. And then what's funny, while all of that was happening, then crypto happened it got really popular in 2017. And so all of that hype then rolled into ICOs. And with even more, it was even easier, just because crypto was another layer of abstraction and confusion. Like nobody understood it, but everybody wanted to be a part of it, right? And so this whole like narrative of always wanting to be a part of the next big thing kind of rolled into gaming as well. And already on top of NFTs, I mean, this is just layer on top of layer. And so what was the big one? I think Pixelmon was like extremely hyped last year, and like they've delivered absolutely nothing, right? And so then there's also like DeFi Kingdoms, right, where a lot of people were making a lot of money. What was that really though? It was basically just a big Ponzi scheme with like extra steps, honestly, if you really boil it down to like the different mechanics at play. And they didn't even focus on making the game fun, like actually enjoyable. That was my biggest bone the entire time. Everyone was like, oh my God, I'm making money. But I'm like, are you having fun though? Because if you're not having fun, then that's not a game, dude. Like that's literally the same thing as me like yield farming. But instead of having to like play with a bunch of pictures and be cute with my friends, like I could just point and click and actually make money.
No. You pay someone to play for you. It's so unfun. You hire someone to play for you. That's the meta.
That's true. That is exactly what was happening with the gaming guilds and everything too. Yeah. That's like jumping into Axie Infinity and all that. So okay. So anyway, you kind of you know the picture. I think everyone else can kind of derive the picture from what that I've painted here. So where are we now with gaming, you think?
Yeah, so to be honest here, it's a big joke even on my stream where I'm not a gamer. I only had a couple. I was like a child who was tricked, and when I was like, "Hey, what games you guys play?" and it was like I found out that I only had like 3 educational games, and other kids were playing Super Mario, and I was like, "What? You guys have this other game?" And then so I've never been a hardcore gamer. I only have a couple games that I have like good experience with, but I am on Twitch, and this is very, very weird. But I follow the Twitch gaming meta, and I watch way too many. If there's a Summoning Salt, a speedrunning documentary, I'm watching that thing, an hour long to learn by Wii Sports. So I consume a ton of gaming content. Do not play games though. So just a note, I was going to say it because I'm like, here's my gaming ideas, and I know someone's going to be like, you don't play games. I go, I know, but I theorize. Okay. So with that, we see a lot of things right now of people talking about super over the top hype things. We're going to make a AAA shooter, NFTs. I saw someone tweet, what if they would have put Elden Chain on Ring, that would have been like a game changer. Just like, it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life, right? Why do we want things on chain for a game? It's like people just don't understand anything. I don't believe in AAA games being in NFTs right now, right? AAA games take years and years to make, millions and millions of dollars. Even the best companies that making AAA games like Riot can make games that aren't successful because the mechanics aren't good enough, right? They've multiple companies have released like their version of a card game, and then it doesn't work because the mechanics are so important to these things. Valorant, so many people working full-time on kickback and things like that, so it'll be played professionally. These new NFT companies aren't going to do that, right? And they shouldn't go after that in my mind. What I think, what's interesting in this space, for big companies, it would be saying, Fortnite, put a Fortnite skin on Ethereum, let them sell it, take 5% of the profits. Super simple. That's what the big companies like Ubisoft and stuff can do. And that's all they need to incorporate. Nothing else on chain. Take some major items, put them on chain, let people sell them there, take a percentage of the profits. But for what I really think for gaming should happen, though, is indie studios being able to fund smaller games that are focused on fun, focused on someone's vision, right? And then the people who are investing early would get some sort of reward within the game, whether that be skin or aesthetics or things like that. So I think I've been using this example for a while, but Among Us is an example of a game that could have been built from NFTs potentially, meaning that it would have been part of the funding of it would be through NFTs. And it could be simple stuff as in Among Us, that game blew up. That is not AAA. That doesn't mean it was not the biggest game of the year when it came out. And oh my God, my entire Twitch and YouTube was Among Us. Every category was Among Us, right? And it was like a 4-person team that I think first originally released it. They could have said, great, selling NFTs now. We're making this game. Here's our idea, etc. Here's our experience making indie games. Here's some other game jams we've done. I don't know. If you fund us early, you get the rare blue hat. And then all of a sudden, when you're playing the game, people would always put on different hats each time. You'd go, oh, there's one of the people with the flex. That is sustainable right now for games that people love. In CSGO, you would explain to someone the price of CSGO skins who's not in CSGO, and then talk to someone who's in it like, no, it's worth it. No, you don't understand. Like, this is 100, but you don't know what that means, okay? Listen, they stopped selling, and you're like, okay, I got it. The skin's amazing, right? They do that. It is amazing for them. That's where they live. That's their favorite game. And same for League of Legends and stuff like that. Just aesthetically being someone, flexing on someone, it's the same as having a fancy car or wearing some Gucci. That could be enough to help fund an indie game and make those people feel like, oh, wow, you're a funder? That is something awesome. And then if that person says, great, I don't want to play the game anymore, then being able to sell that and go, I helped fund Among Us. It became very successful. I was given a blue hat for that. I sold that blue hat for a ton of money because I'm investing in video games early. I'm making money. Win-win. I'm a person who's scouting out new video games, putting my money in. I'm an indie studio who can avoid raising money from other people and retaining more ownership. That's what I think people should be going towards, but I'm not a game maker and I don't play games.
No, that's totally correct. I think like goodbye are the days of Kickstarter, of a third party taking a percent of every person contributing to a project. And when you have a ledger, these people can communicate without like a CRM, some type of like mailing list. Like they have airdrop potential. They can communicate with their community so efficiently. So I completely agree. I think that is number one, community building and early funding and being able to reward those people, whether that's music, whether that's gaming, software, even any type of company, right?
Totally.
So buy are the days of Kickstarter, no need for third party. But another thing that's an interesting concept, when I think of gaming and NFTs, and maybe it's the pixel art that really inspired this idea, but I genuinely feel we're in the Nintendo stage of NFTs. Technically speaking, of computing power on chain, it's lower because you're hitting a lot of nodes. So we're evolving technically, and there's some truth to that because minting a contract in a JPEG, having it be a smaller file size, the gas is less. So minting that, there was like some reasoning for that. So I feel like we're in the Nintendo phase, and I do feel like we're like 10 years away from NFTs really embodying the gaming community, and Blizzard, Activision, all these big guys not turning away from it. And so yeah, but right now I do feel like the simple fun games like a Super Smash of NFTs or Mario Kart done right, like that makes sense. Yeah, you got the Wii. You get like
I got my controller right here for Super Smash, ready to go. Okay.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like that makes sense. But when you get all these and like these people, I think it's a lot of vaporware when they're like, we're doing all this I commend them because they're going to fail forward. But I think in short term, if you find a project that you enjoy the gameplay, you're just going to have fun. And it goes back to like, not everything has to make you a bunch of money. Just enjoy the journey,
Totally. I mean, think about it right now, like Atari was fun. People like Pong. Pong is still fun. That's the limitations of the platform, and they made something towards that. And then, my favorite game probably is Donkey Kong Country. That came on how long ago? It's still pixel graphics, technically. It's perfect. It's still a perfect game because they focused on what the platform is. So it's, I just think I want people to say, stop looking at how do we make the next World of Warcraft? And which maybe Yuga's going to try and do. But and start looking at, Fall Guys, the other one I would say, Fall Guys is not crazy. Fall Guys is not a AAA game. That game was huge. It was so fun. It took over, and it's like you can go after that. Like, why can't you just make fun stuff with the limitations and smaller teams instead of saying we're going to take out Rockstar? And it's like you're not taking out Rockstar. They are the best team. Their games take 7 years to make. By the time you make a game, right? It's like, what? It's like,
yeah. No,
what will
I totally
NFTs be
agree.
by then? It will be crazily different.
Oh, yeah, they will. Who knows, Ben? You probably know best. But no, I think gaming and NFTs, they have a very nice marriage down the road. Like they just make sense to me. But for right now, it's just not it.
Yeah, I think that the actual use cases that are sustainable, that have some longevity to them today, are a lot less exciting than people theorize. And it'll be years before we see something that's actually utilizing them the way that all of us nerds are really dreaming about, where every sword is an NFT and every hat is as well. Like even your persona, you can compose all of your NFTs, and your character is a composable NFT. Like that's not happening in a meaningful way for at least 5 years, because the game first needs to be made. So yeah,
I think it's like so much right now. Like the biggest skill you could have maybe as like a game designer in NFTs is knowing when to put it on chain, when not to put it on chain. And like that balance is like so important. And people are like so confused where it's like the on chain maxi, everything on chain. It's like, does it make the game funner? No, but we pay more gas and it's on chain and it's an NFT game. And you're like, why is that better? And you're like, it's on chain. You're like, that's not a reason. If a game is for fun, that is not a reason. I do want some stuff on chain. I want, like in Wolf game, it's not on chain, the current cave game. But then if you win an item, one of the rare items, you have to claim it on chain. So then I pay gas. But it's so rare to get something. I'm like, yeah, I'm paying the $30, man. I've been digging in this cave for 3 days and I finally found an item. I'm take my $30, right? But if it was literally, if it's every 5 minutes, you're going to be like, okay, so how does Solana work again? No, sorry.
right. So that's a good question. My next thing was, where do you think gaming? Like, okay, have you heard of Phantom Galaxies?
Yes, but I haven't dove into it.
Okay. So I think that has the potential to be like a pretty solid game. It's been in development for a few years. They're gonna have some NFTs in place. I believe they had mentioned launching on Solana last time I checked. But I kind of see it as a mixture of like Mech Assault and like with Halo kind of. But in space, so a little bit of like the Star Wars, like, the plane fighting mechanics. So I think that looks kind of cool. But where do you think that like high frequency games that are going to require like high frequency transactions or high throughput? Do you think they're going to be on Solana? Do you think they're going to be on a layer 2? Is it going to be Immutable X? Like I'm not sure how familiar you are with like the L2 ecosystem, but which ones are you most bullish on, and for what reasons?
Yeah, so to be honest, like I am not like a layer 2 expert by any means. I dive into chains. I get excited about something a little bit. I dive in some. I try and see what's fun for me, and then I kind of retreat back to ETH. However, I am seeing some games now, which I do like the idea where they like a bunch of it's like will be on a layer 2. It's it's on Polygon for all these transactions, but then you claim assets back on Ethereum. So I like that style. So I'm like paired back to Ethereum. The Solana thing is tough because I come from the world where everyone, it's like you say Solana, right? And it's just, everyone in my chat, VC chain, right? Which is funny because was the biggest thing we would say. But then like, look at Yuga now, which I'm an ape, and it's, VC apes, right? It's like VC's taken over. Same, I'm a Moonbird Proof member, right? That's a lot of VC money in there too. So that argument, I feel like it will start to go away. I think it's tough. Immutable X, interesting. It's cool to see some awesome stuff happening over there. I think having Gary V kind of propping it up could help push that in some ways. Back to Solana. One thing that is super important though, as a programming nerd, you get to program in Rust. That's so cool. That's so awesome. I would rather do Rust and Solidity or Plutus or whatever Cardano uses. Like that's awesome and a great target for developers. I think it's one of the greatest target for developers ever. Like you're getting such a good group of developers. You're getting nerds who like new stuff, who are passionate about programming. It's just, I thought that's genius in my mind. Hasn't convinced me to go over the yet. So I do. That's the point. We do need a layer 2 chain, right, to play a bunch of these games, right? Which will it be? I have no idea. The thing I do think that's hurting a bunch of these things is the fact, like, if you look at Solana, right, it's copying what, like, here's an every Solana project. Here's an apes on Solana, right? Oh, cool. There's a doodle project. We have our own kind of doodles over here. Not even the direct ripoffs, but even things close, right? That really makes a lot of people I know very bearish on it, especially new people, because they're like, so after they get familiar, they go, so it's like knockoffs, right? So you go to Solana, you go to Polygon, and you're buying knockoff stuff, fake Gucci. And that reputation is like not good in my mind. What they should focus on is these things. How do they have cool games over there? How do they have stuff where they actually do have more transactions? So I think we need less knockoffs on these things and more interesting games and stuff to play. But yeah. So I have no good opinion.
Gotcha. No, yeah, I agree. I think that basically right now, other chains, it's people trying to capture the market in any way they can through a derivative. And for people who are new to the space, I mean, they're generally not even going on to mainnet because of the fees. So they're waltzing into this new ecosystem thinking that, oh, I missed apes, but now I can find the apes over here because eventually everyone's going to move over to Solana, right? And so it's basically just a lot of misleading developers trying to cash in on the attention. But what really needs to happen is that they need to focus on how they are an application specific chain, and they need to start developing use case specific applications so that they can really bring the right kind of users to the chain for the right reasons and for there to actually be sustainability in the long term.
It's funny when you think about, like, you think about Solana right here, and I think about people. I know Solana NFT flippers and traders, stuff like that. And so often they're telling me, like, look at this cool PFP project. Look at this cool PFP project. Look at this cool PFP project. And I'm like, okay, can't Solana do things that ETH can't do? Why don't you show me that? You're showing me stuff we can do. We do this fine. Right. We're good with PFPs. You keep showing me stuff that we already have over here. If they just show me something like, and you can't do that, you're like, okay, fine. It's like they focus on that. Sell me what is unique of the chain, right? Not, we do this too. So.
Yeah, personally, I think the next biggest thing in NFTs is going to be something like really implementing dynamic NFTs properly, using like Chainlink, and then deploying on a layer 2 and having like a dynamic NFT that responds to things in game in real time. I think that's pretty sick. That's how you're going to have like the upgradable sword that can grow in value over time or something like that. But again, I think that it's all dependent on having a fun game first. Which is, I think, even harder, really, than coming up with the architecture to support whatever it is you want to do. So pretty cool.
Can I ask you? Wait, you know more than me. So what L2 are you most bullish on? Okay.
Yeah, so I think personally, we're going to live in a multi-chain system. So there are going to be a lot of different L2s, and they're all going to be very specific. Whether that's dependent, like what the input will be for what dictates that outcome is going to change. Like maybe one is the NFT gaming place. The other one is like the, that's where we have all of our V3 positions, and we're actively managing them in real time. I'm not sure if are you familiar with like Uniswap V3? Okay, cool. Yeah. So basically, active automated management of like Uniswap V3 positions, like stuff like that, right? There's going to be the DeFi layer 2. There's going to be the gaming layer 2. There will be the Aztec network, where people have like private transactions and maybe there's some high frequency stuff going on there or not, right? So personally, I think it's going to be all over the place. But the most popular, the ones that are going to be the most popular are going to be the ones that have to do with gaming, because that's going to have the most like retail and general user exposure versus like something more obscure, like, oh yeah, your V3 positions, we automate them using Gamma over here. It's like very few people are going to know about that. It's going to be more like institutional, but there's going to be a lot of money there. There's going to be a lot of TVLs. So there's a lot of opportunity. It just, it depends on what space you're in and who you're looking at and how you want to make money, But that's how I see that. But right now, I guess short term, I think Optimism. So Optimism is doing something pretty interesting with their airdrop. Whereas it's like, okay, if you've been using Optimism up to this point, okay, cool, you're getting an airdrop. But we're not doing it yet. We're going to do it in like 3 months, 4 months, or whatever. So anyone else who has missed out on the opportunity, now you can jump in and get some of the airdrop too, right? So they're actually using it to spawn growth, and rather than simply retroactively rewarding people who will then dump that and then leave your chain, which is basically what's happened for years. So I think they've done a good job of learning and adapting to what people have been doing and or making sure that they can actually profit from this mechanic. And so I think Arbitrum is going to do the same thing. And I think it's going to be a bit of a war because right now, Optimism and Arbitrum, I mean, they're both optimistic rollups. So they're the two to really compare versus something like ZK Sync and Starknet. I think Starknet, personally, I'm most bullish on Starknet overall for everything just because they're based on Starks, which are just proofs that are submitted. So it's a lot less data that's sent on chain. So it's a lot cheaper, can scale a lot better overall, and it's a lot more secure. Versus like optimistic rollups, which basically you're just, unless somebody actually challenges some transaction, then it just gets put through, right? That's why it's called optimistic. So anyway, in the short term, I think Optimism, Arbitrum are going to have a lot of activity as people want to take advantage of these airdrops. And by then, I imagine Starknet will have been deployed live and there'll be more activity. And then people are going to start experimenting as like transpilers and things like that start to come about for translating Solidity directly into Cairo to be deployed. And so, because nobody wants to change their tooling, right? I think at the end of the day, too, another important question is where are the developers and what are they doing? Everyone knows Solidity, everyone knows Truffle, everyone is using this. Nobody wants to change anything once they get it set up. So I think once there's like a bit of an ecosystem, like, the Aave is deployed over there on Starknet, you have like the Curve, you have like the main guys, then you're going to see everyone just kind of lump in. But I think Starknet for builders right now is probably the biggest opportunity. Optimism as well, if you don't want to learn anything new whatsoever. And all of them are going to be pretty big. And Solana will probably be like the gaming chain, honestly, just because Rust really is a fast language that is most appropriate, I think, for that use case.
Totally. I think Rust will take over a lot of C++ and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's perfect though.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then when it comes to, so how familiar are you with like Near or like any of these other chains? No.
Okay, you lost me.
Yeah, okay. I'm not super big on Near or anything like that, to be honest, either. I focus mostly on just the Ethereum ecosystem, which it sounds like you have too. So,
yeah.
Cool. I think
I'll check it out though, definitely. I was going to say, Arbitrum is definitely, it's funny because I'm describing myself when I'm doing this interview, obviously, of how various NFT games have got me more into looking at the DeFi side. And Raid Party, and then one of their posts had a lot of good links to a bunch of stuff about the Treasure ecosystem. And all of a sudden, it's like, here's all the ideas. We're looking at what they've done. And like, it made Arbitrum but it's like, I'm looking at Raid Party. And all of a sudden, I'm like reading posts about Arbitrum. And I was like, it's 5 hours later. I'm like, I still don't understand any of this, but I'm so deep. You know what I'm saying? It worked totally. Like, I would have never, ever read about it. But it was like, they're pioneering ideas. We're trying to figure out what they're doing. What's a good idea? What's a bad idea? And it was just totally tricking me into, and becoming an L2 maxi slowly, even though I'm still not there. I haven't bought anything yet.
Yeah, like the ultimate, and I'm not sure how familiar you are like with like the Ethereum roadmap and what they plan on doing. But like, sorry,
I'm somewhat familiar.
Cool. So basically, like the long-term vision, right, is that humans aren't even going to be using mainnet anymore, and that it's basically just going to be a bunch of L2s who are paying for gas to submit onto L1. And I think that that's like very pragmatic. I mean, some people argue that that's a bit of a rent-seeking like mechanic on Ethereum's part. But I mean, if it provides the security, then I mean, you're just paying for security, right? The same way that you pay AWS, you're now instead paying Ethereum, right? So that's kind of how I see that shaping up. But now I want to get back into some of the NFT stuff that you're into. So like right now, are there any projects like off the top of your head that excite you, or nothing right now? Things are kind of slow. Like, how do you read the market and what's exciting right now?
Yeah, so it's probably a lot of things I'm already inside of have stuff like that I'm excited for to see what happens next, and we don't know. So I've already mentioned it before. Like Wolfgame has announcements on the regular, and it's a constantly moving thing, and I'm very excited to see where that goes. I mean, that's something that I participate with my friend. I mean, it's a game right now, and it hasn't launched the full game. We're in a mini game right now for unveiling stuff, and it's fun. I mean, this morning I start most of my days with a cup of coffee. I call my friend, and we look around this cave for gems, and we laugh, and we joke with each other, and so I really want to see where they're going, because every single week their communication, there's They're just changing stuff up all the time. It's super great. Even their last update, it was a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. And me as like a Vim nerd, I was just like, oh, I love you guys. This is what we want for games. Now I can play
That's awesome.
a little better. So that definitely is exciting me. I'm really curious to see. Well, see, I'm talking about a lot of projects already out that I'm already in, but like Doodles made the announcement. It's an announcement of an announcement here. But like they are releasing the next roadmap, and I'm really curious to see where they go, especially in relationship to what Cool Cats have done. Cool Cats released their game. It's barely a game, truthfully. And then the floor is not doing that well. And then they just got rid of their CEO. They're going to get a new CEO. So like, I want to see what direction Doodles will go, since they were in competing spots and then Doodles kind of took over. So it's a super interesting meta narrative that I'm going to follow closely. I mean, I'm an ape. I've got ape land. There's so many stats on these lands, and we still don't know what any of them mean. So I'm always going to be. I gotta jump into some conspiracy calls later with some friends, and we're gonna talk. I got some friends with some new theories, and we're gonna hear why and what we should buy for whatever reason. So, but those are all like things that are already out. For something that's like coming up. I mean, this is a thing that's been happening over the last week, but I am very, very curious to keep following this whole ENS four digit. Now it's 5 digits, but really the 4 digit to 3 digit movement. Because in my opinion, it's been one of the funnest, totally decentralized, organic, meme community things we've seen in a while. Meaning that they minted out all the 4 digit numbers. It's a 10K collection. It's a 10K collection without the superfluous image. Why would you need an image? We just want the number. And the fact it's on ENS is so exciting to me. And now it's gone through a hype cycle, right? And it's still kind of solid, but is it a meme that can survive? Because ENS is going to be something that we're going to keep using for the future. And it's another meme story that I'm super excited to watch. Trying to think for any new projects. Nothing that I'm anticipating right now. A lot of times when I'm into something, it's like I find out then, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Is it good? Is it bad? But one last thing I actually did want to mention though. Another meta that I'm interested in, that DeFi Damien, I got to see what you think about this, is the whole omnichain thing, right? That was I got into Tiny Dinos because, I thought they were kind of cute, but it was such a fun piece of branding and narrative, even though I don't know if it's actually useful in my mind. I kept joking that, I'm going to release a project, and then when I get kicked off of Ethereum, we'll be on Solana. When I get kicked off Solana, I'll go over to Cardano. When I get kicked off of Cardano, I was treating it like this is a joke, like I'm going to run from chain to chain, but that whole, I don't know if it's useful or not yet. We still don't know. And no one's done any fun things with it yet, right? No one's made it where, a simple idea I had is once they do a world tour, upgrade them, right? If you have Tiny Dino and he actually did a tour of the chains, it's just making someone pay fees. Whoops. Then all of a sudden he would have a world travel background. And that's that is super fun. It's a goofy, fun thing, but also you're forcing someone to learn how to use every chain. You got to have a wallet set up everywhere. It's like a kind of an educational thing. In my mind, it's pretty good. That bunch of people were like, you're missing one. No person, someone does. Most people do not have all the chains, that are supported right now by the Layer 0 protocol set up. So that might be fun too.
No, I think that's amazing. I think that as an educational, backing of just going chain to chain, getting rewarded for using that. And that's kind of what airdrops are doing right now. Just people are rewarding for early adopters for trying out their protocols. But I really like that. I like where your head's at, and I want to continue this conversation. There's so many places we can go. Want to respect your time, man. Your story in NFTs is so inspiring and so cool. And I love your perspective on it. It's just so refreshing, right? When people are talking about the community, I think there was only a few times we talked about floor price, right? That's not always what it's about. It's about the utility. It's about how you feel about the artwork. It's about meeting that person and starting a relationship and things that you can't quantify with a floor price, because that's essentially really what it is. It's still super speculative, and you can't put a value on that. And that's this magical place that we're in, where it's who knows? I don't, but I'm in, and that's what's up. I really appreciate that about you.
Yeah, I think a good way to basically look at the thing is you are the floor price, right? I mean, the floor price is your asking price, right? What is someone going to have to pay to get you out, right? Have you contributed that much value to the system or not? And I think that's a really good way to measure the longevity of a project. Are there cool people or not?
Totally.
And
sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying, yeah, my advice that I feel like so many people miss because we're so focused on making money is you join NFTs. You want to find friends, find people that you disagree with, but you enjoy talking to. Me and my friends, we are in screaming matches in our Discord calls about like, you think that's good? How do you think that? Right. And that's why I need them to be my friends. So find people you can argue with, but that you still trust, and people who are fun. Like it's supposed to be fun. Like I understand you can make money from it, but like you will burn out so fast if you're just focused on pure numbers. You win some, you lose some. You lose some. It's my mind. I like losing if I got my friends around, because then they got to go ha ha, and you're like, it's me this time, and it's enjoyable losing with your friends, right? That's my personal opinion. When you're and this is it's crazy. When I lose alone, I feel like a loser, right? You're just like no one knows what I'm doing, and I'm like, I'm a loser, and then they're like ha ha, and it's a funnier thing, and yeah, losing alone makes me feel like a loser. Losing with friends, it's fun. It's entertainment. We're all good. Then you win some, you lose some. We all put each other up. So find friends in the space. I tell people, go to IRL meetups, go in Discord calls, get on Twitter spaces. Like you see someone who's got a similar sense of humor, like similar stuff, connect on things outside of NFTs and crypto. Like, oh, you like skateboarding? I like skateboarding. Let's talk skateboarding. I was at an NFT meetup last night. We ended up the last hour talking. I found out that everyone was into like the same hardcore, when we were all younger. It's like, you guys were into those bands? I was into those bands. And we talked about music for an hour. And it wasn't about NFTs. And now, next time I want to talk about NFTs, it's more fun. We're closer because we know about more of each other. So
yeah. No, I love how you're doing the IRL meetups, and just because that's where all of this really gets mass adoption and moons, right? Is when NFTs meet this healthy medium of the physical world. Because, art, people say right click save as, but if you are in the art world, you know how many knockoffs there are of, let's use like a Van Gogh, for example. Like the authenticity of that is very skeptical, and it's off the person that sold it. So like having things on chain have value, and I really want the art community to start to know that, because when Shepard Fairey or when Banksy mints it, that's a Banksy because it's on chain and it has the stamp, and this is where I really want people to start viewing it. And there's so much fun stuff to happen. Like I said, Web 2 was like, I can post myself on the internet. This is what I did today. Like Web 3, there's so much more community around it. There's people like you, man, just having a good time, educating people along the way, putting themselves out there in a way kind of never before, right? Because like this, for example, we're jumping on a podcast discussing, right? Just out of love for the industry as a whole. And so I think where we're headed, super awesome. I want to get you back on. This has been super fun, super refreshing, man. I'm definitely going to check out some more of your Twitch streams. We'll leave that in the show notes. I've watched a few. It's hilarious. The man in shade just shreds code. It's amazing. And,
we got some fun stuff coming up. You guys want to see? I deleted my entire Discord by accident the other night because I have a script that automatically deletes and destroys Discords and opens up portals and closes channels and passes roles. And I ran the delete script in my actual Discord during a Discord call, and channels are disappearing. And then the voice chat channel we were in got deleted. And luckily, I had a script to reverse some of it. I had to adjust it. But if you want to see me build that, yeah, come on Twitch.
Yeah, no, you're a legend, man. I really love your story, and keep doing what you're doing, because that's really the heart. Like right now, it's the lifeblood of the NFT market. Is what you're really getting is community, like-minded people, and optimistic people that are looking forward towards a very interesting, different, groundbreaking future. So on that note, man, we'll close this off. Until next time, and all your links, everyone follow this man. He's hilarious and a very knowledgeable person. So again, can't thank you enough. And we're out.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to FutureFi, where our mission is to educate and elevate Web 3.0. Prepare for exploration in 3, 2, 1.